My name is Cecil K Walker.
Mm-hmm. Could you spell all of it?
And I can spell it, I think.
Yeah.
C-C-I-L, Cecil, pronounced Cecil. Kingsford, Kingsford, Walker.
W-A-L-K-E-R. Great.
That's it.
What is your birthday?
11th of September, 1928. Hence my second name, Kingsford. Kingsford Smith was the flyer that flew the first plane from Australia to New Zealand. And I was born on that day.
On that day?
Hence my name, Kingsford.
I see.
Yeah.
I think you have a very special birthday because my birthday is September 12th.
Is that right?
Yeah, so you born a day earlier.
Yeah.
But I born in 1961. Yes, a little bit earlier. You know, September is a beautiful month. Yeah. Where were you born?
In Inglewood, a little place called Inglewood.
Could you spell it?
I-N-G, I-N-G.
L-E?
L-W-O-O-D.
And is it close from here?
No, it's about 350 miles from here. It's down in Taranaki.
Taranaki.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me about your family background when you were growing up, your parents and your siblings, when you were growing up.
Well, I was one of 9 in a family.
9?
9 children. And we spent... My father was working in a sawmill when I was a baby, or when I was a child growing up, at Waverley, a place called Waverley. And then we moved from there to a place to go on a farm just out of Hara, which is still in Taranaki. And the father went share milking, which is farmers, they go from farm to farm, milking cows on a share basis with the farmer. And then finally he came up to Wakatani here. But I stayed on in Taranaki and I worked in a local store delivering groceries around the village, around the country. Hence I had to have a driver's license.
Right.
My father had a truck, and trucks were very scarce then. Farmers used mostly wagons and horses to take their milk to the factory. But because my father had a truck, us boys, all 4 boys in our family, we all had competition to drive in this truck around the farm and wiping out gate posts and generally learn to drive. And I got a heavy traffic license at the age of 15, which was a thing, we had a war going on then.
Yes.
And if you worked on a farm, which was considered an essential job, you could get your license at 15 because of the shortage of labour.
Yes.
And then I joined the army from then. And because I had a heavy traffic license, I went in to camp, did my basic training.
When did you join the army?
I joined the army in August 1950.
And where did you get the basic military training?
I went to, when did I, sorry?
Where did you go to get the basic military training?
My basic training was done in a place called Linton.
Could you spell it?
Linton, which is near Palmerston North.
Mm-hmm. For how long?
For about, I couldn't exactly, but we had about
3 months?
probably 2 months.
2 months, yeah, yeah.
And then we moved from there to Waiouru, which is in the centre of the North Island.
Yes.
And we did our basic training there, our
Again?
core training.
Again? Another training?
Another training. And because I trained as a gunner, but then they were short of drivers, so I got a job as a truck driver.
So before we talking more about your military career, when did you go to school? When you were children, did you go to school, right?
Yes.
Yes, and when did you graduate your school? When did you finish all the school? 1940?
I don't know.
And
it was the end of the war, 1955.
Yes.
I finished at college, I think.
I see.
Yes.
And did you know anything about Korea from the school learning?
Just general knowledge, but not specifically Korea. No.
So you didn't know much about Korea at all,
No,
right? Yeah.
no. I knew where it was, and you know. But that's all.
So when did you go to Korea from New Zealand?
We went by ship.
By ship?
Yeah, by the troop ship up to Busan.
When did you leave from New Zealand to get into Korea?
On the 10th of December. The troop ship left Wellington.
1950.
50.
Wow, so you went to Korea on the year that the Korean War broke out?
Yes.
Ah. So you arrived in Busan?
Yes.
How was it to land in a country you never knew before and landed on the day of New Year's Eve? How did you feel about it?
It was very, very different from New Zealand.
Tell me the details.
At that time, you've got to realise the Busan was a perimeter.
Last
and
perimeter.
There was a lot of people.
Yes.
All the refugees, and the place was really packed. And it was very, very cold. That was the most noticeable thing, was the
exactly from
the
New Zealand.
because it was this time of year, you remember, you know, that we went just a month prior.
Yeah.
So it was very cold.
How did Korean people look to you? Be honest, just be straight. How did you think of them?
You had to feel very sorry for them.
Why?
They were having a big struggle.
What kind?
For housing, or for any, you know, they were really crammed into the whole I suppose half the population of South Korea were crammed into Busan and around that area. They were very deprived of all things. Yeah.
Look very poor, right?
Yes.
And miserable.
Yes. Well, they couldn't help it. Yeah.
What did you think about that?
Well, you had to feel very sorry for them. That's all you could do. Yes.
And that was the country that you didn't really know much about it, right? So did you think that what the hell am I doing here?
Sort of.
Sort of, right?
Yes, yes.
Why am I here?
Why am I here? Yes, let's get this over and done with.
But you volunteer for it, right?
I did,
Yes.
and I'll do the same again.
You'll do the same again?
I would,
Wow.
in the same position, I would do the same again. Those people needed help.
That's the normal thing to do, right?
Yes.
Yes. So from Busan, where did you go?
From Busan, we moved up to a place called Miriang.
Milyang, yes. And why did you go there, and what did you do there?
Well, the guns had to be calibrated.
Mm-hmm.
The gunners had to get everything sorted. And we had, on our truck, we had their ammunition.
Mm.
And our truck was our sleeping quarters, everything.
And what was your unit at the time?
Well, I was in a small unit called the New Zealand Transport Platoon.
Mm-hmm.
There was only about 70 fellas, and we had a fleet of trucks to keep up with the artillery, keep their ammunition with them at that time, yeah. But we stayed for a wee while in Miriang, and then as things had changed, MacArthur had made that landing in Incheon, and the whole situation had changed, and we were moving up all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time, every day, every 2 or 3 days, move up again, and up to past Daegu. I can't remember a lot of the names of the places,
Mm-hmm.
but and then up to Seoul, and out to a place on a river called the Pakhan River.
What
which
river?
is more central, in the central of South Korea.
Han River? What did you say? The river, name of the river?
Han.
Han River.
Han River.
Yes.
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 And around, we spent some time around that area, as I remember.
Mm.
And then, because our units were so dispersed, we had Englishmen over one front, and we had Australians, and we had New Zealanders and Canadians, which were all Commonwealth countries. They decided it would be better if we were all together, all Commonwealth countries.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved then from the Central Front over to Seoul and up past Daegu, Tokchon, sorry.
Yeah,
Tokchon.
Tokchon.
And up a valley there, and we spent quite a lot of time then around the Imjim River area.
So was it north of Imjin River or south of Imjin
Well,
River?
north and
North.
south.
Okay.
We had 2 lines of defence. As I can remember, I might have this wrong, but one was called the Kansas line.
Yes.
And the other one was called the Wyoming line, I think.
Wyoming.
I think it was called Wyoming.
Mm-hmm. Or Jamestown? Does it sound familiar? Jamestown line.
Gemstone, no.
Jamestown. No?
No,
No.
I don't recall that one.
So before we go into the detail, you've been to Daegu, that's one of the major cities, and Seoul.
Yes.
How did Seoul look to you at the time? How was Seoul?
Seoul was just deserted.
Tell me, give me the detail. Describe
I'll
like
show you- I can
watching films.
I can show you later some photos of it.
Do you have a
taken
film?
in
Do you have a
Seoul.
pictures?
And I had been back since. And there was nobody living there, of course. Only a few street kids, that's all. And our main job was going from, we used to take rations, but also from the Imjin River, close to the Imjin River where we were billeted. We used to go down and bring supplies up from Incheon, the port, we'd unload LSTs with engineers' supplies, barbed wire, mines, ammunition, all sorts of stuff like that. And we used to bring the Australians out, we'd go up in the morning and bring the Australians back over the river, this side of the river, to
the
do up their
Imjin River.
lines, to work on their second line of defence. And we'd spend the day with them, then take them back in the afternoon, in the evening, and that was our day's work.
Wow. So just give me more description about the Seoul you saw. How was it? You said that
it was pretty well flattened. Some of the bigger buildings were still standing, but they had been damaged. But most of it was flattened. It was really knocked about. Yes.
And you didn't saw many people. You didn't see many people.
No, not in Seoul. No.
But those kids that you saw in the street, how did they look?
They lived on scraps, whatever they could get. Yeah. And there was few of them, but they gradually got, as time wore on, people came back, and they made houses of whatever they could make, all sorts of, I'll show you photos of the things they had.
How about Incheon? How was Incheon?
I don't remember Incheon. I cannot recall, because I don't think that we went, probably the port is a little isolated from the city itself, I don't know. But we used to drive straight
to the port?
To the port.
And then to the Imjin?
And then up to the Imjin again, yes. There was one bridge across the Han.
Yeah.
And that had been damaged.
Yes, heavily damaged. Almost collapsed, right?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
And have you been back to Korea since then?
Yes.
When did you go?
About 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I went for the 60th anniversary.
I see.
Oh, a few years ago.
And you saw modern Seoul.
Yes.
How did it look to you?
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Tell me.
And unreal. You just could not imagine what we saw and what it was now. It is a beautiful place. I thoroughly enjoyed my stay there.
When you left Korea, when did you left Korea? I mean, during the war.
I spent 18 months there.
So it's got to be 52?
About 52, yes. Must have been
June?
in 52, halfway through 52.
Okay.
Yes.
When you left Korea, had you ever imagined that Korea would become like this today?
Never.
Why? Why you didn't think so?
It was such a primitive place. The farming and everything about it was so primitive. And now it's just a modern, very modern place. And I couldn't imagine it.
Do you know the rank of Korean economy now in the world? The rank of Korean economy.
The rank?
Yeah.
No.
The number one economy in the world is China.
Yes.
Second is US.
Yes.
Third, Japan. Fourth, Germany.
Yes.
Where do you think Korea is now?
Well, I would think by looking at the country, they're well up in the second or third.
That's a little bit too much. It's the 11th largest economy in the world.
Yes.
By 2030, about 10 years, 20 years later, we're going to be ahead of France.
I'm sure you will, but if you keep going at the rate you're going, you're going to be number one. You know, this shipbuilding and the work that's going, it's just incredible. You people can work. You know how to work.
Yeah.
That's something we could learn from you a lot.
You guys working hard too. But, so you were invited by the Korean government, right? You were invited by the Korean government.
We were...
Yeah, invited.
No,
when you go back to Korea 3 years ago,
yes. It was, yes.
Yes, it was the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs.
Yes.
MPVA invite you.
Yes.
How do they treat you?
Very, very well. Like lords.
Oh.
Just like lords, yeah. We had motorbike escorts everywhere we went. It was, no, they treated us very well.
Did you go by yourself or did you go with your wife?
No, my wife, it was just a all-male delegation.
Got it.
From the government. The government did it. Veterans Affairs.
Were you able to go to near Imjin River?
Yes, we crossed the...
You did?
Yep.
And when you went, visited again, what were you thinking? You were there driving all the time from Incheon and then major battleground, and you visited again.
I didn't know the place.
You didn't know the place?
I didn't know it. I would have been lost. I could have, even though I'd driven up and down that road hundreds of times, I wouldn't know it. Because we didn't have, a lot of the roads we drove on were just riverbeds and tracks.
Yep.
They were not like now. You drive on modern motorways and you don't even see where you went. You're different altogether.
Yes.
It's just totally different.
So this is wonderful transformation, isn't it?
The biggest transformation is, I thought I'd go back, and you know, we were by a railway line. We were camped by a railway line, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, railway lines don't move. And I thought, I'll find this place. But I couldn't see it for trees. The whole place reminded me of Switzerland. It was all trees.
Exactly.
And that just transformed the whole country.
We are one of those successful forestation country in the world. It was just no tree, right?
No.
And then suddenly all trees.
All trees.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing that sort of hit you when you were there. I can't see anything because trees are in the road. Yes.
You are the first one actually mentioning about this forestation in New Zealand. I have, how many? I have done 18 interviews. You are the 19th from New Zealand, but you are the first one who mentioned about these trees.
Well, that's the biggest thing.
Very good observation.
In the countryside, yes, it's the biggest thing, the trees. Yeah.
So, did you encounter any enemy while you were operating as a truck driver from Incheon and all, going all over? You didn't encounter any enemy there?
When we moved up, before we got to Muriang, we lost 2 men.
Why?
Their truck
from Busan to Milyang?
Yeah.
There was not many danger there. Were there guerrillas?
Guerrillas.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't safe.
Yeah. Were you afraid? Were you threatened?
I was never afraid.
Never afraid?
No. You don't get afraid because you're with your men. You're with the other fellas.
Yes.
But
at the northern region where the DMZ, did you encounter any enemy while you were...
We were quite safe.
Safe.
We did have to stay with the artillery at times, and but we were never... We did do patrols.
You did patrol too?
Yes. Our platoon did 2 patrols for the Aussies. the Aussies took us across the river before we had crossed the river, before the front line was across the river. They took us across the river in the early morning, in the dark, and we did patrolled into no man's land. But I think the Australians had made pretty certain that there wasn't going to be any trouble. But we did get shot at, but it wasn't, we were pretty safe.
Good. How close the enemy to you in Imjin River? Was it like 1,000 meters or 1 kilometer? How close was them?
Well, at different times, I couldn't say because we were at different times we had.
So sometime you were able to see them in your eyes.
We used to watch from taking supplies up. We sometimes couldn't cross the bridge. There was 2 bridges across the Imjin. There was a pontoon bridge, and then there was another wooden bridge. And we'd have to wait while the
Airstrike
were performed on the hills we were going over, you know, before we could go over, in case any of the planes thought we'd be, target as us. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that was, they'd have people to stop you. And
what was your rank at the time?
Well, when I first went, I was a gunner.
Gunner?
A gunner. And then I was a driver. And then I was a corporal.
Corporal?
Yes.
Okay.
And as a corporal, I had to look after and maintain 6 trucks and 10 drivers under me. And I had to see that those trucks were ready for the road every day, or why they weren't. You know, they had to be. And also, I used to take convoys. I'd lead the convoy to where they had to go. I had to know where we were going.
Yeah. How much were you paid as a corporal?
I can't recall. I'll have to find my paybook.
How many shillings? Think about it.
Actually, a corporal was a good pay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And what did you do with that money?
Well, most of it, I came home and I had some money in the bank.
Because you saved it there, right?
A lot of it, yes. Some of it we had leaves. We used to go on leave a bit. Mm-hmm. After we'd been there about 12 months, the Americans decided it was time we had to leave. But the New Zealand government said, no, you Kiwis can't go on leave. No, right. We won't have the Americans fly you. So the Americans said, well, we'll put parachutes on them. And they did.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was one of the first to go on leave, and we had to get on these planes with a great parachute strapped to us and hook up to a line and the thing.
Whoa.
But that was squashed after a while later. No, and we did have leave from then.
Any dangerous moment during your service there in northern region around Imjin? Did you go to near 355, Hill 355?
We went through all the hills.
All the hills?
By all the hills and over all the hills, yeah. We were moving around all the time. So, dangerous reasons. I couldn't say, really, you don't worry about that sort of thing. There was one place where you had to watch it at night. You couldn't show any lights at all because you get shelled. We did, night driving was always dangerous because you had to keep up with the other truck because the light in the truck shone on the white patch on the diff of the truck in front.
Yeah.
And if you lost sight of that, you know,
You are done.
you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It's the same as driving in the snow. We had one morning we had a convoy of 27 trucks going up. When it got there, I had 4 trucks. The rest had gone. So we had to go back and find these. They'd gone. We had a whiteout, what they call a whiteout. It was just started snowing when we left. And by the time we got to the ration point where the trucks come and get their stuff, we had about a foot of snow. And you couldn't see anything. And there was trucks everywhere. They'd gone off into the paddy fields. They'd gone and tipped over. And we spent all day getting the supplies up that day. And it was very cold.
Yeah. The road was not clear, right? Because of the snow. So you get into the rice paddy and all this.
You couldn't see.
Right.
You couldn't see a thing. And another time, when the roads got icy, had to come down one hill to get into 28th Brigade Valley. It was quite steep. And there was quite a drop-off on the right-hand side. So all the truckies to keep the back of the truck hitting the bank until they got to the bottom. And there was a sharp turn at the bottom. And that's how you got down the hill. You had to keep the truck bumping the bank because you had no traction whatsoever.
But you never wounded. You never hurt.
No.
So you came very safe in one piece.
Came home in one piece, thank goodness. Yeah.
So now, you told me that you didn't know anything about Korea. Now you've been back to Korea and you were amazed by the changes that has been made by the Korean people.
Yes.
What is Korea to you now personally?
Korea's a lovely place. I love the people. And the Korean people have treated us, I think we're very, very lucky, because most people that serve overseas serve in countries that are hostile to them. But we served in a country that is very, very welcoming to us. And that's different. I think we're very lucky. And the Korean people have treated us very well.
That's a very good point. What would you say to the Korean people? Next year will be, as I told you, it's the 70th anniversary of the war breakout. Yes. Never been replaced by the peace treaty. It's been war like that for 70 years, and we are commemorating next year the 70th anniversary. What would you say to the Korean people?
Keep going like you are. You're getting there. And I think they're lovely people.
What would you say to the young New Zealand students about your service as a Korean War veteran? What would you say to the young people here?
What would I say to them? It's something I did personally, and I'll never regret it. And if they get the opportunity to help somebody, help them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a noble thing to do. And that's why we are thankful to UN forces who came to our country and saved them from the communist attack. So that's why we are doing this. And this is how we think that we can keep your legacy best. Yes. Right? So we are going to talk with the teachers here in New Zealand and ask them to use this interview in the classroom about the Korean War. Yes. And so they will hear from you. Okay?
I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Any other message you want to leave to this interview?
Well, as I said to you before, if I could do it again, I would do it exactly the same. I would go and help you.
Give me 5. Give me 5. Yes. You are a wonderful man, sir, and I really thank you for this opportunity to be able to see you and listen from you. And you have made so many wonderful comments about your service, and we thank you, sir.
Thank you.